Move aside and wait out. People like you don't belong here. The words cracked like a whip, venomous and unrestrained, cutting through the polished silence of the lobby. Marble floors, glass walls, golden light pouring from chandeliers, all of it suddenly became the stage for humiliation. Dozens of eyes turned at once. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Coffee cups froze halfway to lips. The sound of authority, of hate disguised as protocol, reverberated like thunder. And there he was, a man draped in a suit sharper than any blade, posture carved from stone, face unreadable but eyes alive with history. His skin, dark and regal, reflected not shame but strength. His name was Nathaniel Cole. Before we dive deeper into his story, before we unfold the breathtaking twist that shattered this building only 5 minutes later, I need you to pause. Smash that subscribe button right now, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and share this video with someone who believes in justice, because what you're about to hear is not just a story, it is a testament. Now, let's begin. Nathaniel was not born into power. He was not cradled in silk or taught in polished private schools. His beginning was cement floors and leaky ceilings, the forgotten edges of a city that pretended not to see its poor. He was born to a mother whose hands were always raw from bleach, whose back ached from scrubbing strangers' homes, whose eyes were tired but never stopped burning with determination. His father was a shadow, a rumor, a name without a face. And so Nathaniel grew up on the strength of a woman who worked 3 jobs and still went to bed hungry so he wouldn't have to. But the world was not gentle. As a boy, Nathaniel was taunted in classrooms where his second-hand clothes became targets for cruelty. He was mocked in stores where shopkeepers followed him, convinced he was a thief. He was shoved aside in neighborhoods where privilege walked proudly, and poverty was treated like a disease. Still, Nathaniel endured. At 16, he scrubbed dishes in a diner until his skin cracked from the water. At 18, he hauled crates in warehouses where men twice his age collapsed from exhaustion. And late into the night, when most boys his age chased fleeting joys, Nathaniel read. Under a flickering lamp bought at a pawn shop, he devoured every book on finance, leadership, and empires built by men who once had nothing. He promised himself something then. One day, I will build something no one can take from me. One day, I will stand so tall that no voice can tell me to step aside. That fire carried him through college, where he was often the only black man in his business classes. Professors dismissed him, classmates avoided him, internships lost his applications. He built a small cleaning company with his bare hands, hiring other students who needed money, transforming it from a mop and bucket to contracts that paid for his tuition. By graduation, he wasn't just a student, he was a businessman. The years that followed were war. His first company nearly collapsed under sabotage. Investors pulled out when they saw his face. Competitors mocked him. Banks slammed doors in his face. Yet every failure became fuel. He built again, and again, and again, until the day came when Nathaniel Cole wasn't just another dreamer from the projects. He was a titan. His logistics empire spanned across states, his name whispered in boardrooms, his signature enough to bury competitors or raise them to glory. And yet, on this day, in this lobby, none of that mattered to the ones blinded by arrogance. The manager, red-faced and bloated with false power, sneered as though he had achieved some noble victory. The receptionist smirked, nails tapping against the desk like a drumbeat of mockery. The security guard shifted, chest puffed, basking in a moment he thought belonged to him. The insult landed again. People like you don't belong here. It hung heavy, thick, venom dripping from each word. Some interns looked away in shame. A deliveryman froze mid-step, eyes flicking nervously. Others smirked, satisfied by the show. But Nathaniel? He did not crumble. He did not argue. He simply adjusted his cufflinks, glanced at his watch, and let silence shield him. Because he knew what they didn't. 5 minutes, that was all. And those 5 minutes stretched like eternity. Each second was a weight pressing down, each tick of the clock dragging out humiliation. Nathaniel stood still, while whispers slithered around him. Who is he? Why is he here? He looks lost. He heard them all. But inside he was calm, his silence louder than their ridicule. Then, the elevator chimed. The doors slid open. Out stepped the board members, dressed in power, dripping authority. Their presence shifted the air, commanding instant respect. But as their eyes swept the lobby, they landed on him. And everything changed. Recognition flashed, then respect, then something close to reverence. Nathaniel, one breathed, stepping forward. We've been waiting for you. The room froze. The manager's smirk dissolved into horror. The receptionist's tapping hand fell limp. The guard's shoulders collapsed under invisible weight. Their victim was no victim at all. He was the reason this building stood. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Faces drained of color. Arrogance shattered like glass. The very people who had mocked him moments ago trembled in disbelief. Nathaniel turned his gaze, sharp as a blade, upon the ones who had humiliated him. You're fired, every one of you, effective immediately. The board did not object. They knew whose empire this was. They knew justice had come. Security escorted them out, their steps clumsy, their pride bleeding onto the floor. The receptionist's tears smeared her makeup. The guard's stare fell to the ground. The manager, once so loud, was silent now, a man stripped of everything but shame. And the staff who remained? They whispered in awe. Some clapped softly. Others stood taller, inspired. For they had seen it. The man who had been told he didn't belong had proven he was the only one who did. Nathaniel paused before leaving. He looked at the interns, at the deliverymen, at the janitor pushing his mop. His voice softened, carrying the memory of his mother's sacrifices, carrying the weight of every insult he had ever endured. Never let anyone tell you that you don't belong. You decide where you stand, and when the time comes, you stand tall. And he walked out, not as a victim but as a conqueror, his silence etched into the marble, his justice echoing through every corridor. Because 5 minutes of humiliation could never erase a lifetime of resilience. This was more than revenge. It was justice. It was patience rewarded. It was the power of a man who knew who he was and refused to let the world define him otherwise. And for everyone watching, let this story be a reminder. The next time someone tells you to wait outside, the next time someone tells you that you don't belong, remember Nathaniel Cole. Remember the man who turned humiliation into history. Thank you for staying through this powerful story. If it moved you, if it reminded you of the fire within, then hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because the next story will shake you even harder. Stay tuned, because justice always has the last word.